Welcome, Chris Evans Radio. We are back with Little Dave, and it is a rainy Monday for me, dealing with Hurricane Helene. But just because of that, I haven't missed a meal or training, so it's business as usual. You said it's been hot as hell in Utah, so
Yeah,
just
the
want
opposite of that. It's definitely bright and sunny right now. So
yeah. So, I don't know why it came back up on my timeline, but that set of you doing those true squats, what was it, 5 plates in a band?
yeah, I folded over the equivalent of the Elite FTS, the orange band.
Yes. Yeah.
So I fold that in half. So yeah.
What was that
So
tension like when you unracked it? Where you're like, "Fuck."
no, it was bad. It was,
Yeah.
actually fun story. So Watson reached out to the guy who owns the gym
Okay.
because he bought the entire gym kit from Watson. So he texts them all the time, but they're
Okay.
like, "Do you need a bigger peg for your?" He's like, "Yes, yes, we do."
Because
They're
I'm
like,
sure
"We'll
that's to
make
the
it."
end, right?
Yeah, yeah. He can't fit anymore.
Right. You have to tell them to get those like trained by JP plates that are like,
We have kilo plates over there. What are like?
oh, right. Okay. Okay.
I asked him. I was like, "Can I use those?"
Right. Yeah. I have never used those before ever.
Yeah,
But Jesus Christ, yeah, like those, I've never used those, and I've only used those Chrome Elite FTS plates that are on the smaller side
yeah,
once when I was there. But Jesus Christ, man, like I know this, like every time I unracked that true squat, no matter if it's a light load or medium or heavy, it always just feels heavy. It's so heavy at the damn top. Like
yeah,
as you go down, it for me at least, it feels like a sensation of getting lighter, or I just
yeah,
build more confidence as you go down, one of the two.
yeah,
Now obviously if you have a band on there, it's going to feel lighter as you go down.
yeah,
But yeah, that overload at the top of anything against the band is always so like petrifying.
yeah,
Then you're just like, hey, stay tight, motherfucker, and let's go. That's how I've always looked at it.
yeah. I also really like the band stuff for like leg work because it like discourages pausing at the top.
Oh hell yeah, you
Then
ain't
you
getting off that shit.
forget it. Like so many people do like they forget we're not here just for strength, right? So like that, and they'll go up and pause, take a breather and pause. Well, yeah, that's fine if you're doing like a widowmaker or whatever. But if like that's your everyday sets, like your tension's on and off
Yes.
instead of just on.
Yep. One of my original lifting partners, that's one of the first things he said about me when we trained together is he was like, man, you lift really rhythmic. And I was like, what do you mean? Like we were doing front squats. And it was just like, and he said, I've never thought about that. He said, but as I've watched you go, he's like, your legs just get more full. And I was like, he's like, why do you do that? And I said, because I saw Ronnie Coleman doing it.
Yeah,
And I had at the time I had no other explanation because I'm like, okay, Ronnie in those yellow tights doing front squats at Metroflex, and I'm like, okay, that's what it takes to get big legs. Like that's how you train. You get into a rhythm and you just fucking go. And that always just felt good to me too. Like the extreme ends of either range, I think there's benefit, but you have to use those intelligently.
yeah,
Um, and as you know, and because that's the way you train, but the typically the most top part of any lift without a band is going to be the easiest. And if you're got that joint locked out, the muscle's getting jack shit.
yeah,
So I think so many miss that because they get so tied up in like progressive overload, beating a logbook, which isn't a bad thing, but it's like, hey, we are there to train the muscle, right?
yeah, exactly.
Which is why, I think I always lean toward, if we're talking specifically leg training, why I like to lean 12 plus reps is the sets would be so long if you paused after every one. Like you would just burn out. And
Yeah,
which is why I kind of like that feeling of, let's say we're going to do a hard set of 20, like those first 10 roll, the next five are starting to get challenging. And then those final five, like you just have to find it. And,
yeah,
as you said, if you pause like maybe for 18, 19, I'm fine with that.
yeah. It's not big. I mean, even on that set like we're talking about, I definitely paused on the last rep. Like I got up there and I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna figure out another one.
Yeah, what you just said there is huge because it's almost one of those things like so many people I feel like they just turn their brain off and rack it. Where I think you and I get to that spot and it's like, okay, fine, fuck it. Like you just I need a mental regroup for like a split second and just like, not that I'm talking myself into it, but I'm like gearing up, like, okay, I gotta control this bitch and I have to use every ounce of whatever muscle I'm using to get it up. And that to me is where the magic lies in those last few reps.
Mhm.
Is, and if you guys watch that set of his, you didn't just get to that spot and then dive bomb that bitch and bounce it off the bottom. Like,
No.
yeah, you have to lock. To me, you at those final reps, you have to dial your form in almost even more than you were the first 10. And
Yeah.
I know that's a lot of nuance within that. Because that was another question I got on one of our podcasts, is the one we were telling the guy to up his intensity. I think that maybe that was the last one, where fixing his bad metabolism. I can't remember at this point. But he was like, so that just means I just increase the weight, right? Because he tied weight with intensity.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's such a nuanced question to have to answer. Like, well, yes, if you add more weight, technically your intensity would be higher. But I think when you and I speak about intensity, that's not what we always refer to.
Yeah.
So
I think like the easiest way to think about it is like, can you do it and focus on something else? Like that goes over so many people's heads, but it's like such an easy concept.
yeah.
Like you can't train hard and think about the text you're about to send.
No.
It's
No.
like if you're balls deep in your girlfriend, and you're trying to finish. Could you use your fucking phone? I wouldn't be able to. Maybe someone out there could. I can't.
No. Same.
It's the same fucking concept.
Right.
I want that. So that's what I'm working towards. It's like I can't have multiple things happening. Right? You're not focused on, you don't even know where you are.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. Angel sent me this reel the other day. She's like, why does this describe you accurately? And it was like a dude walking in the gym and it says, all life's problems, and everybody like falling through the door.
Yeah.
Yes. And what you just described there, so many people take what I consider baggage of the day. And it could be important baggage, by the way. Your kid could be sick home at school. You could have missed 2 bills on something. You could have a work deadline. But to me, like, I'm either doing those tasks or I'm training. It's not both. It's not simultaneous. And I know some people can say, oh, Chris, like, I can work on my phone and do training. And okay, cool. I've yet to have someone come to town with me and do that.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Yeah. I have yet to train someone who can do both.
Yep. And that is the key. Like I was just talking with one of my buddies about this. He was asking me, he's like, how many people do you think there are, like, in terms of the gym? Like, how many types of people are there? And I was like, to me, it's 3. It's people that train like absolute flopping vaginas. It's people who survive workouts, and the people that progress from them. And this group right here, I will always consider them. They go in there searching for pain and progress. Like, it's not avoided. It's brutal reality. And the reality of the situation for most of us, and that's 99.9 not genetically elite level at putting muscle tissue on, it means every time you pick up a weight, it's with purpose and with the sole factor of how can I get to that pain level that's miserable that most people quit and stay there as long as possible. And I know a lot of people will argue with me on that, but I'm telling you, I've been in commercial gyms for almost 2 decades at this point. And that first group has the most people. And I know there's a good amount of people that will say, Chris, like, give them praise. They're there. They're doing something that's better than staying at home. Yes, you're right. But that group will never be elite level anything. They're in there just inching the bar forward, where you and I don't have time to inch the bar forward. It's got to jump. If not, we're always going to be a middleweight, whatever weight class. And that to me is not why I weight train. And the next group, the ones that they survive, and I'll give them credit there, is they go in, they work hard for them, and they get through the workouts. And most people on the outside looking in would say, oh, that's a great session. You and I know the difference between surviving a session and progressing from one. Very, very different. And it's a different mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I used to talk to my in-person clients all the time about, is I would say, hey, when are we going to stop surviving these sessions and start progressing from them? And they're like, what does that mean, Chris? I'm like, you clearly hate this shit, or you don't welcome it, or you're missing your meals beforehand, or you aren't setting up your sleep right, or why did you forget your injury workout for the fourth session in a row? Like, hey, like just showing up and punching a ticket, like clocking in, clocking out, it, it's a big difference in running a company. And to me,
Yeah.
if you look at your body as you're the CEO of that bitch, as opposed to, you know what, I did my cardio today. Like you and I could get on there and do 3 incline, 3 speed cardio and probably chill and be fine. There's a difference when you get in prep and we start taking the incline up, we start squeezing our glutes, we do it with intent, sweat is dripping from our nose. It doesn't matter what the environment is, whether that's making our food or training or whatever. You can pick a subject that pertains to bodybuilding, and it's a difference between doing it and then progressing from it.
Yeah.
And so many miss that, or they learn it too late in life.
Yep. That's my favorite thing to watch in contest prep. Like I'll see everybody on, they make posts on their stories or whatever. No qualms against them. But they're like, hey, I'm at an hour and 45 minutes of cardio a day. You're like, all right, that's pretty intense. And then you see them doing cardio, and they're just walking down the fucking street.
Oh yeah.
It's like my mailman walks fucking farther than that. Like god damn, like he's walking faster than you.
Right.
Like you're just meandering around on a treadmill for an hour and 45 minutes.
Right.
Like I bet you could cut that time into a quarter of that if you actually like did what you were supposed to do.
Right. Yes.
And actually had put some effort into it. And like, yes, there are some variables like if you take the intensity super high on your cardio, yes, you have to manage fatigue. You're not doing a hit though.
No.
And that's like the thing that makes me laugh. It's like you can definitely go like your heart rate should be elevated. You should be breathing hard. If you can hold a conversation, it's too fucking easy.
Right. I can tell you, I learned this from an early age, and I know this is gonna sound like something silly, but just walking around Lowe's with my dad to pick up supplies for the job that day, he wasn't running, but he was moving with intent, where everyone else is just walking through Lowe's. And that motherfucker is whipping around that place, loading his cart full of shit we need for the day, checking out, getting it loaded in the truck, and then you're getting to the job site as soon as possible. And the amount of times he would say, specifically to my brother and I when we were younger, whether it was on the golf course or whether it was working that day, but put a pep in your step, boys. Pep in your step, boys. Come on with it. Hurry the fuck up. Like,
yeah,
he wasn't expecting us to run, but he was expecting us to move with a purpose. And I think like that's what I always think about is, when there's not someone in that scenario specifically that is just writing us a check each week, like he doesn't get paid till that job's done. And then we don't get paid till he gets paid. So whether we had a trailer full of mulch that looked like it was going to take us forever, like the faster we got that bitch unloaded, the faster in place, the more money we were making, the sooner we're going to go eat lunch.
Yeah.
I guess I've just always been fortunate enough to be around people like that taught me those lessons early.
Yeah.
Where there's ways to do things and then there's the right way.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
They'll both get done, but one will get done with a much better ending. And, it's that's really hard to explain because I think a lot of times people would, when they do say they want to come train with us, and it's like, I don't know if you know what you're signing up for, man. And I'm not trying to scare people or think that we're better than others, but do you know what it's like to get into a session and 10, 20, 30 minutes in, you're like, how the fuck am I going to do one more set? But you have to find it. Like, we still have 3 work sets to go, and they're going to be harder than the first. Like, that's a tough concept. And I know a lot of guys, when they train alone, they don't bring that level of urgency to themselves. But I know you do this. I know I do this. Anyone who I've worked with who's good, like if you look at your total work sets on paper, each time you tick one off, you're one closer to the end.
Mm-hmm.
You have to view it one at a time. You can't say, oh, well, I got this triple drop on leg press, but then I got to do 1.5s on hack neck. So I better hold something in the tank. No, fuck you.
Yeah.
Empty it on that leg press. And then when you get to the hack squat, take that as a standalone. That's a whole new standalone exercise. Like each block is how, because you did John programs like I did. each paragraph is how I looked at a block. Okay, that's the
Mhm.
first block. I have 6 blocks for the day.
Mhm.
That's it. I just have six of those, and each one, bam, check off. Next one. Now I have to master that next block before I move on to the third and the fourth, fifth, and the final and the sixth. And obviously there's easier portions than others. Like I'm not going to try to say that a dumbbell row is nearly as hard or is easier or harder than say a tricep pushdown.
Yeah.
The levels are different. But within that muscle, like, man, I've had my arms pumped so much that it literally hurts to move them. You can't even sit still. They hurt so bad. Like,
Mhm.
so even though, like, say, a dumbbell row for a set of 8 to 10 is going to get you more breathless and longer to regain your normal breathing, you still have to look at that as, okay, that is one section of the workout that I have to dominate. And
Mhm.
you do that enough, next thing you know, 90 minutes or 60 minutes is over, and you said, hey, that's a good damn session. Now we just got to stack them together. So I think, like, if you and I teach anyone anything from all this, it's like purpose, effort, intensity will always be the true guiding of progress. And I'm gonna tell you this, I know the more clients that I teach that and almost give them a lesson in humility, where it's like, oh, you thought you were going hard before. What
Yeah.
if we went harder than now? And
Yeah.
harder is relative, right? Like what I
Yeah.
ask you to do now, what I expect you out of a set now is different than it was 6 years ago and 2 years ago. Like, I know you can put more plates on there. I know you can do even more precision with your reps, and I know you can find 1 or 2 extra. And like that's to me the evolution of bodybuilding or physique development, whatever you want to say. So
And it goes back to the start too, like just like you were saying, your precision of reps, the quality of weight, all that stuff comes with time.
yeah. Yep.
Like if you're beginning, stop fandangling trying to be so fucking perfect, but you leave the intensity on the table. Your muscles are not going to grow by squeezing them into a curl.
Right. Yes. Agreed.
That's what they do all the time.
One of my young guys who he was obsessed with learning everything. And
Mhm.
he got down this rabbit hole. I can't remember who he was watching or what he was doing, but he was like, I'm going to reset my form on all my lifts. Like I'm getting a little sloppy. And I was like, you know what? I think that's a good idea. And I go in the gym one Saturday and he's doing arms and he's doing skull crushers with a 30-pound fixed bar. And I was like, I went over to him and I jerked that thing out of his hand. I was like, unacceptable. I have girls that do this. And he's like, Chris, but if I go slow and if I squeeze my tricep, I'm like, go do that shit with 60 and then the 90. Okay. And he's like, but I don't know if I don't care. Just, I'm going to sit here and spot you. If you do 1 rep, I'll help you. Set a 10, perfect with a 60. Okay, good. Go to 90. Let's do it. I helped him to 4 reps. I think we got to 10. His triceps were just swollen. I was like, you see the difference? I was like, the reps were still perfect, but you weren't using bikini girl weight. And I know that in person that may be more challenging or easier to do in person than it is to me over the internet.
Yeah.
Because I think you've shared that story before. You had that guy who you put 2 extra plates on the leg press and he got like 26 reps or something crazy. Like the amount of times that it happened to me in person training where I'd have a guy or a girl say, oh, Chris, I only go to 3 plates on a leg press. Okay, cool. Don't pay attention to the weight. I need you just to do how many reps I tell you. Next thing you know, they have 6 plates on there and he did a set of 15. I'm like, you only do 3 plates, huh?
Yeah.
Like, fuck. Like, it's a light bulb. How many sessions were you wasting doing a warm-up weight?
Mhm.
And another great example, I had a very good bodybuilder coming to town, and I asked him, we were doing dumbbell rows, and he was like, I said, how much do you normally work up to? I said, I know the dumbbells here are heavier. And he's like, I do 80. I'm like, no, how much you're gonna do next? Like, what's the top level you do? He's like 80. I was like, okay, cool. He did 120s for 10. I was like, man, like, stop it. He's like, I never thought about picking up. He's like, those, I only have 120-pound dumbbells in my gym. I never thought about picking them up. I'm like, why? I don't know how you were, but like when I was younger, the golds that I worked in, we had the dumbbells were set up essentially in like 4 sections. It was
Mhm.
like 5 to, I want to say 30s, and it was like 60s to 90s, and it was like 100 to 120, and then it was like 130 to 150s. And I always viewed those for rowing, for stiff leg deadlifts, for any incline or flat pressing. I'm like, man, I want to get to that next level. Like once I started getting to that third section, and then when I got down to that fourth section, I was like, fuck yeah, I want to see how fast I can get to those 150s. Like I wanted to pick them things up and feel them. So I remember the first time I ever sit back with 110-pound dumbbells on flat. They were sitting, well, first I was sitting on my lap, and my buddy handed them to me. He was like, you need to fucking roll this bitch. And I just sit back, press it for 10. He was like, we're gonna do 120s next. Like, I'm like, oh fuck yeah. Like it fired me up. Like I'd never pressed over hundreds. Like, and I know that feeling of chasing that weight was always so much fun to me.
Yeah.
But maybe not everyone has that sensation, but for me, I'm like, hell yeah, like what's the heaviest they got in here? Can we knock the dust off and fuck these things up?
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you saw those 180s just staring at you.
There's a set of 200s would have been looking at me for 10 years now.
Right. Yes. Yeah, and I'm sure like in your mind, they're like, one day, motherfucker, one day I'm gonna sit back with you and I'm gonna press it or row it or fill in a blank.
Yeah.
We don't do shrugs, but I'm sure you could shrug those today if you wanted to.
Oh yeah, I could probably row it today if I wanted to, but
cool. All right. So now that we're adequately warmed up, I got a question last week for us, and I thought it was pretty intriguing because I know in this current level of social media, when people post pictures or videos or work sets, it can be a mixed bag of praise and hate. And I'm sure this will be an evolution for both of us. But when you get negative comments on a video or a post or whatever, like what does that, how's that register in your brain? Like, do you delete it? Do you fire back at it? Do you give them a thumbs up and pick fun at yourself? Like, how do you usually handle those?
sometimes a mixture of all of it. All I don't think I've ever deleted a comment.
Right.
Sometimes I think they're really fucking funny.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times, like shit, like I might make poke fun of myself as well. But a lot of that just gets used towards like, all right, cool, what am I gonna do next time?
Yeah.
And like knowing where like those comments come from too.
Yeah.
Like I've yet to get a negative comment from someone above me.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, if that makes sense. Like Derek Lunsford's never come on my page and been like, you're fucking skinny.
Right. Yeah.
The people who make negative comments, like I had that one that I made a post about, it made me fucking laugh because I was just like, I was like, is this guy, like, he was serious, because he had to been like maybe 160 and he's telling me what, like, I'm doing things wrong. And it's like, please do explain that to me.
Right. Yeah. Yep. It's really interesting because I can't remember where I saw it, but someone said you have to think about the mentality of someone who's going to take time out of their day to write something nasty and negative.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at this point of you and I, anytime we post a crazy photo or a video or something, it's inevitable someone's going to say roids or steroids or something like those to me mean nothing.
Yeah.
I remember the first time one of the first like popular videos that John and I shot together, someone posted, man, look at these two buffoons. They both have steroid faces. And I commented back. I was like, thank you so much. That's a huge compliment. No one's ever said that about me. Like, and he was trying to pick fun of me, but I'm like, fuck, I must actually look pretty big.
Yeah.
Think about how long you and I had to train to like be considered big by the majority of people. For us, that wasn't a fast process. That wasn't, we didn't graduate high school and people were like, man, you lift weights? Like, no.
Yeah.
And secretly we're like, yeah, we lift them 5 days a week and smash food, motherfucker.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where anytime I get those comments, I always view it as a compliment now where I'm like, man, I'm fucking big now. Like, hell yeah. Like it's to the point where I'm not viewed as what most people would consider obtained naturally. So like to me, when someone makes those, what they view are underhand comments that might get under my skin, I just laugh at it. I'm like, fuck yeah, you're damn right. I'm willing to do what you want. And
Yeah.
so those don't really bother me personally at all. Like I think those are funny. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of all the things that I get picked on about. Like normally no one says shit about my form. I'm sure they don't do to yours either. Like for the most part. Um,
Yeah.
I may get told that I'm a moron for how high I take reps, or if anytime I post something about not needing to shoulder press, someone always is going to comment that I'm wrong, and always just say, feel free to look at my post. And then they go to, oh, well, if you didn't shoot all your oil in your shoulders, they wouldn't look that way. And I'm like, okay, cool, awesome. Not true. I've never used Synthol a day in my life. I have no reason to lie about it. And then I'm trying to think like, so form and stuff, I don't feel like we get a lot of hate on. Occasionally I'll get stuff from like really, I would say, health focused people when I show a meal and it doesn't have vegetables in it. And they'll
Yeah.
make this long expose about why my food choices are poor and how rice doesn't have fiber in it and how anyone would listen to me. I'm an idiot. Okay, cool. Like I would see you and think you were a vegan. I get it.
Yeah. You're like, that's great. Have you seen, do you see this apple right here? It's a good amount of fiber. The fiber in this actually is better for you than whatever the fuck's in steamed broccoli.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. But I just saw this fucking video about broccoli spiders. Have you ever seen this?
Ah,
Oh, Jesus Christ. So it took like a hyper zoomed in piece of broccoli and folded the floret apart, and there were like spiders and shit. They're called broccoli spiders. I was like, yeah, fuck that. I'm not eating that again. It was wild. I don't know if it's true or not. I saw it. I believed it. So it's enough reason for me never to eat broccoli again.
yeah. Oh, that's funny.
I'm trying to think of like things that give me legit anger. Um, like you, I get really frustrated with the folks who are teeny, have never trained anybody to be big, yet they have all the answers to be big.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess everyone thinks that I just hate science, and I don't, because I think that science is just a few years behind us because
Yeah.
we aren't scared to try and experiment with shit. And I don't need a study to tell me that weighted hamstring partials out of the stretch position for leg curls are going to make my hamstrings grow. I did one set of them and I knew it was going to make my hamstrings grow. Why? Because it burned like a motherfucker and I couldn't walk right for 3 minutes afterwards. Like fun fact, I know it's effective.
Yeah.
Oh, and the guy that taught me that, his hamstrings were bigger than most any bodybuilder I've ever seen in my entire life on the internet or in a magazine. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't need a study to prove that. But the such certainty that those individuals speak with blow my mind. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I always think this, where do you gain your confidence from? Because reading a PubMed study doesn't give me confidence.
No.
I'm like, okay, cool. Like I'll read that and think, how can we apply that? How can I try that? And then maybe it's a cynical mindset, but I'm always think like those test subjects that did that, what were they eating? What did they look like? And what was their training intensity like? And no one can ever give me those answers.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they do, it's like, oh, they took a group of frat boys who partied on the weekends and you're okay, who don't weight train, and you're telling me you're gonna get a hypothesis off of their findings.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Got it, I guess. Like,
Yeah. It's also, it's one of those things too. Like if you take any high level bodybuilder and you take them outside of their normal areas, that gym, the competition, and you place them in with general pop,
yeah,
how many people out of 1,000 look like them?
right, probably
And then do the study on that.
correct. Yes.
And then tell me again, like, oh yeah, building muscle for gen pop is actually building muscle in general is fucking easy. It's not rocket science.
Yep.
None of it is. It's not, none of it's hard, none of it's complicated. It's just time consuming. And there's a level of difficulty that comes with it as well.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't just happen. But at the same time, right? If I take someone who's been living on Doritos and watching Netflix, and that's all they do for their life,
Yeah.
and I have them pick up a dumbbell and add in any supplement. I could have them eat fucking magnesium.
Yeah.
They'll gain muscle because it's a new fucking stimulus,
Correct. Yes.
you know? So, like, okay, cool. That's a great fucking study. You know, magnesium builds muscle. Okay, cool. Like, that's like basically like saying, okay, cool. I have a farm animal that I don't use. And I keep it in its fucking in the horse shelter the whole fucking day for the last 5 years. And now this year I'm gonna have it plow the field. What it must have gotten more muscular because I started feeding it, some electrolytes. It's the same concept.
Agreed. Agreed. And you know, I've always felt like I had a relative open mind for ways to build muscle because
Yeah.
I've seen people do it all types of ways. And I feel like this new group of people are like, Chris, there is one way and everyone else is wrong. And to me, that always speaks to their immaturity of experience.
Mhm.
And again, I remember what it was like to be a young trainer. I thought I had all the answers. I thought I knew the best way to do everything. And what I quickly realized is the best for everyone is different.
Yeah.
And just because someone is telling you a bunch of big, fancy 7-syllable words doesn't mean they're always right.
No.
They could
Actually, in my opinion, if someone legitimately goes into a conversation and they use a 6-syllable word, it's like, good job reading a dictionary. Now tell me how to do it if I don't. Right?
Yes, yes.
Like, I can't tell you how many times I've just been like, all right, cool. When you're doing a lat pull down, put the pressure on your pinky. What does that do? Rotates my humerus. Right? Am I gonna tell my fucking client, okay, rotate your humerus? They're gonna be like, what the fuck?
Right. Yeah. 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 I'll tell you the lesson I learned, how I learned that is there's a local head trainer here who he always on the internet post this shit about like the importance of how educated he is and how he's superior because he has a higher level, he has a master's degree in this, a doctorate in that, he has 47 certifications. And I remember getting into a good conversation with him one day, and I said, hey man, like I've been training people in person for a decade, and not one person has asked me what my degree was or if I even had a certification.
Yeah.
Explain that. And he went through this long, detailed information. I said, I don't think you understand. I said, I've trained people from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. for a decade, and not one. All they gave a fuck about was when they came in, they had a goal. Can I help them achieve it or not?
Mm-hmm.
And then if I showed up on time and gave them my best service, that's all they ever cared about.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, that's not true. And I was like, so you're telling me I'm unique and special. And he doesn't look like, if you saw him, you'd never think he was a trainer. He's a very smart dude.
Yeah.
And he's produced some good results, but not, and I'm not saying this to brag, but not to the level that I have. And he would always say, it's wild to me that I've seen you make progress with people, and yet you never even post what you're certified in. I was like, why? I said, as I said to you many times, no one gives a singular fuck.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't take your finger on my Instagram page and do this and realize that I know what I'm talking about, then you and I aren't a good pair.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, your action, how you live is how people are gonna. That's like the fun part with like if you're training people, it's like your body's your fucking resume.
agreed. Yep.
And or if that's gone, like your other people's bodies, have you changed them as your resume?
Right.
Not whatever, certification you got.
No. I mean, I always would say this, and my original fitness manager taught me this. He said, Chris, when you train at this gym, you're a celebrity and everybody watches you, even though you don't think they are. And I said, okay, cool. And I took that to heart. And I said, okay, cool. Like when someone comes to do a session with me, they're going to get worked to their ability. And there's going to be zero doubt that I'm exactly where I want to be at that minute. I'm not dicking off my phone. I'm not fucking flirting with chicks in the background. I'm not like socializing. I am training someone to be better. And as you said, my client results spoke for themselves. And then when I trained in that gym, everyone knew that I was training because I had purpose. As we talked about at the beginning of this, like I'd have people come up to me and be like, I want a session like that. Okay. Go talk to the front desk, have them put me in a hole, and I'll see you then. I'll give you a
Yeah.
call after my session because the front desk girl would take the name and number down, put them in my schedule, and then we'd set up an appointment. Like it was fucking easy. Like to me, that was fish in a barrel because it's like, as you said, my physique is a resume, my work ethic's a resume, and then the results I get from clients are.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had multiple people in there dropping 50 to 100 pounds, and I had guys girls putting on lean muscle tissue and getting shredded for contests, people notice that shit. And when you're at a gym that has over 10,000 members, like I never had to do marketing. Just like with online coaching, I don't do marketing. I post client success stories, I post my workouts, I post my photos, and it is what it is. And said, like that resume speaks for itself. Now, I realize that probably if I hired a business management team and probably pumped out more fancy marketing materials, like maybe I would be further along in my coaching business, but that's not how I want to do this. There are trainers out there who have millions of followers. They bought them all and shit. Like, no, fuck that. I didn't buy my physique. I'm not buying a following. And that's how I kind of
yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, like when I get 100,000 followers, it's gonna be because I worked for that shit and I put out good content and good information that people learn from. Like at the end of the day, like my page is how to get better, or I talk shit. That's it.
100%.
Occasionally, I'll post like a photo of Angela and I, or a video of Daxon playing a sport, but for the most part, it's always just like, how can you level up as a human, whether physically, mentally, like. And that's why I think, like, and to go back to our point, is when people make negative comments on that, it's always because they probably hate where they are currently in life, and they see an individual doing what they want, and they have to poke holes in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, that goes on the other side too. Like, so many people get so scared of doing what they want to do.
Right.
Like, I can't tell you how many people are straight up terrified to bring a Tupperware of chicken and rice with them somewhere.
Right. Yes.
It's like, dude, I promise you, no one's going to give a fuck.
Zero.
You know? And like, they're like, what if this guy thinks this of me? It's like, why do you care?
Correct. Yep.
You know, like these goals are important to you. Why would they, like, if anything, they should understand what your goals are important to you. You're not taking anything away from their life. You're not taking their food away from them.
No.
You know, and if you do that, like that's annoying as fuck. Yeah. Like if you're dieting and now your girlfriend has to be on a diet, you're an asshole.
Correct. Yes.
You know, if you're dieting, your family now has to be on a diet. It doesn't work that way. No. You do this for yourself. No. Right. But when it comes down to what other people think of you, it's like, cool, it doesn't matter. You know, because their goals are not the same as your goals. And if you want to have the same goals as them, you're going to look like them. Right. And if you don't want to look like them in bodybuilding or whatever, stop doing what they're doing.
Right. You know, I also realize that I can be very vicious with my tongue sometimes if people come at me. And I saw this Cat Williams come back. He was on a radio show and the host was making fun of his hair. And he said, bitch, I don't know what's higher, your cholesterol or your scale weight. And Andrew goes, that is something you would totally say to someone. I'm like, yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, fuck off, man. Like, are you that concerned with what I'm doing? And the true answer is most people aren't. You know, as I said to you, we were talking like, you know, in a gym, there's a reason it's covered in mirrors. It's because everyone wants to stare at themselves. Like, most aren't watching the ones around them. And if you are going to be an asshole, someone like Joey Swoll is going to catch you and call you the fuck out, which I love. Because, again, mind your own fucking business. And if you put out positive energy, that's all you'll tend to get in return. And the people who are going to try to bring negativity in your life, listen, you can disarm someone real quick. Whenever I get comments about my face being red and blood pressure being out of control, or it's because I'm on steroids, like, I'm like, cool, I have rosacea. And then those people are always like, fuck, man, I'm sorry. Like, You think I want to walk around with a fucking red face? No. But I can tell you this, I'm not going to take fucking antibiotics for the rest of my life to fix it because that's what we tried and it wrecked my stomach.
Hmm.
Fun fact, I'm not going to do it. I'll live with a fucking red face. I'm not going to take antibiotics for the rest of my life. And
Yeah.
that's the only option he said they had. Now, they also said I could do like Botox injections and shit like that. I'm just not going to do it. Like, I don't care that much.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to think what other people say about me. All my hairline's receding. Like, awesome.
Right.
I'll be 40 in fucking 15 days. Like,
Dude, I love that one. It's like I'm like, all right, cool. Yes, I'm kind of young, whatever. I'm balding, whatever. It's like, here's my family on my mom's side. Do you notice any similarities? Every single fucking one of them doesn't have hair.
right.
Not a single one of them has touched steroids in their life. I
Right.
knew what I was getting into. This would have happened either fucking way.
Correct. Yes. Yes. And
You know?
could I get a hair transplant? I could probably do that. But I'm like, fuck, man. Like, you've seen my dad. His hair is exactly like mine. It's thin right here and thin right here. Like,
Yeah.
as you said, it's genetic, man. Like, that was, may I have sped that up? Yes, but it is what it is. Like, if it gets to a point
Yeah.
where it's bad, my head's going to do exactly what yours is.
Yeah.
To the bone. Done with it. Like, but I'll still hold on for a few more years. We'll see.
Yeah.
And then you have comments that are like ridiculous, right? Like, I had a guy on YouTube say that I had no calves. Now, listen, I am not an arrogant asshole by any means, but I know that small calves aren't one thing that I possess.
Yeah. Like, these are over 20 inches around, man.
Right. Like, you've seen my calves in real life. They aren't a weakness.
Right.
I'm not trying to say that I'm Dallas McCarver, Flex Lewis. Like, I'm not trying to say that, but in my whole body, you can't look at me and pick apart my calves. Like, I that's just not. So there's some people I think who just like to be assholes and pricks, like
Hmm.
where they'll say something that's not even the fucking truth.
Hmm.
Or they'll make shots at your character because of life choices you made or whatever. And at the end of the day, like, I always find that very laughable. Because what are you gonna do? Like, oh, you're a drug user. All right, cool. Like, you drink alcohol. You're addicted to porn. You
Oh
cheat.
my good God. The amount of people who are like, oh, you take steroids is like every single person in America takes fucking drugs.
Right. Yes. Yes.
You got caffeine, you got nicotine, you got all your fucking prescriptions. You have birth control, you have men's hormone supplements, you have all these. It's like half of you guys cannot go through a day without popping a Tylenol.
Correct.
And you guys are getting mad at me because I want to keep my tests at regular hormone levels.
Right. Yes.
It's like there's a huge difference there. You know how many people fucking die from Tylenol and ibuprofen, kill like legitimately giving them liver damage?
Right. Well, yep.
A substantial amount.
You know, one of the things that caught me so off guard with Ozempic was how quickly people were to shoot needles on themselves. Like,
Oh yeah.
if you would have presented that medication to me and said, hey, we're going to sell a ton of people on this and get them to lose weight, I'd be like, barrier entry is injections. I would like, there's no way someone's going to do that. Man, was I wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and what that made me think is, I wonder if you told those exact same people that if you gave them some Serostim, for you guys who don't know that, it's growth hormone, that can help you lose fat and build muscle and give you better hair, skin, nails, joints, how quickly would the whole world be on that? Because I didn't think people would sign up for injections. And I thought like that would be a huge reason to stop or not to do it. But I'm wrong. I could be wrong. Like, if you gave most people some Clen and growth hormone, I think you would be in some low dose testosterone. I think they'd be shocked at how fast they would progress and how much better they would feel. Like, but at the end of the day, like, so if you think about that with Ozempic, you're taking a shot that makes you feel horrible. You don't want to eat. And it's just melting muscle away. Okay, what if I gave you those three that I just said? One's a pill and then there'd be 2 injections, right? Like, that's going to make you feel better. And I'm thinking specifically for dudes, right? I'm going to be stronger. I'm going to be leaner and more vascular. I'm going to get harder erections and I'm going to feel like I'm 16 again. Wow. How quick did the whole fucking world jump on that little trio, right?
Well, I mean, at the same time, like it just like with semaglutide or Ozempic, right? You got to optimize the other parts of your life for that to work.
Yes, correct.
You can
Yes,
take all the Clen T3 and growth hormone in your life, but if you all you eat in the fucking morning is a bag of Doritos,
yes,
good fucking luck.
right. Yes.
You know, like exactly. It would be probably a little bit better than they are, but like, man, we see it all the time in TRT clinics. Guys are like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get on TRT," and they're like, "Man, I still feel like shit." It's like, well, that's because you're 300 pounds and you're eating fucking tubs of lards for fucking lunch. You know, like
I
not to
guess,
be the
yeah.
asshole here, but like it sounds really good on paper. It's just like I've seen maybe four good changes from people taking some magnitude.
Yeah, yeah,
I've met about 100 people who have taken it.
yes.
Of people I've seen who have taken it and like, oh wow, that actually did something substantial. It's like, wow, you look like you are a shell of what you used to be. You lost cool, you lost 40 pounds, and the 25 of that was muscle. You actually got fatter
Right. Yep.
and smaller,
Yep. Agreed.
you know, versus like, oh cool, like let's say you spend that $250 a month that you spend on semaglutide on a smart coach and actually followed that plan.
Yes.
Jesus,
Right.
man, you could have lost 40 pounds and almost none of that being from muscle,
Yeah.
and you would have looked fucking stupid compared to like that is a huge, drastic change in how your outside appearance would look, you know, and the cost was the same versus like you wanted to go the easy route, but the easy route was actually the hard route.
And you don't get intestinal paralysis.
Yeah, right. You're probably actually going to end up eating more than you were before.
Right. Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's such a tricky equation, right? Like, I know why people are drawn to that supplement because it's on paper an easy fix,
Yeah.
but it's just in the short term. And I mean, I'm going to jokingly say this, but you could go on like the drug addict, snort cocaine and party all weekend and probably lose just as much weight from not eating. But, I guess to rein back on this topic is, so I've talked about all the typical hate comments that you and I might get. Is there anything that really gets under your skin that someone will say, like, I mean, it really fires you up? I have something that does. Outside of if someone talks shit on your family or your girlfriend, like if someone spoke of my wife or kids, like I'm going to see red and be very vile. So outside of that, is there anything that really truly gets under your skin?
Um, Honestly, I got kicked out of a different gym here in Utah, because I was being too aggressive. And the gym owner, like, he didn't want to kick me out of the gym. So he came over and talked to me. He's like, all right, Dave, there are pros who are better than you who make less noise and are not as aggressive, and you need to change that. And I basically just said, all right, see, dude, I'm out of here. So like that shit drives me up a wall because, like, cool, if someone's better than me, that's fine and dandy. How we all get there is very different. We all start climbing this mountain at different levels.
Agreed. Yes.
Some people are really close to the fucking top and they get to climb this fucking far.
Right.
And they're there. Some people are, fucking starting the canyon down the fucking street. They're not even at the mountain yet.
Right. Yeah.
You
Agreed.
know?
Yeah.
But so like so that has nothing. And by the way, I've never broken a piece of equipment in my life. I'm the kind of guy at the gyms, but I usually help move equipment without asking. I don't get paid for that.
Okay. Right. Yes.
Like I can't tell you how many members I've brought into that gym. And now it's just like, all right, cool. Well, good luck.
I mean, what's interesting about that is me hearing that it was that was an emphasis to make you feel really small. And I'm not talking about stature small.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm going to try to say something that really fucking makes him feel like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sure on the inside, you probably had more words than see ya.
Yeah.
Once you took the high road, which 99 times out of 100 is always the right answer, right?
Yeah.
He's either hoping you clap back at him and give him a reason to kick you out, as opposed to just saying, you know what, I'll see you, man. Like, thanks, but no thanks. For me, this is really simple. Anytime that someone, I've had multiple people say this in different words, I'll use my own, that John would be thoroughly disappointed if he saw what I was doing now. Like, and I'm not saying that has happened a lot. It's been a handful of times, under 5, but people have said that. And that makes me want to just see red. For many reasons, is because nine times out of 10, those people who have said that have never met him in real life.
Yeah.
They didn't know our dynamic.
Yeah.
And they have no clue what I'd done with him and for him.
Yeah.
And what I continue to still do to this day.
Yeah.
And I'm not bragging or saying I'm someone special when I say this, but there is less than 3 people that still contribute to his family's wealth, and I'm one of them.
Yeah.
And no one knows the dynamic I have with Mary and his 2 boys. And again, I don't say that to brag, it's just the truth. Whenever I share his knowledge and anything that he's passed on to me, I always give him credit for that. I don't try to sit here and pretend that I figured out how to do high rep shoulders or less shoulder pressing or pairing chest with shoulders or doing hamstrings first before quads. Like, I don't pretend to do, like, I came up with that. And there's lots of people who act like that shit's theirs. I'm not trying to call anyone out, but you know who you are. Next is like, him and I, even though we were very similar and saw life very similarly, we are different people. They also didn't know him behind the scenes, and they didn't know like how he would speak to me versus how he presented on the internet. And that's not me trying to show anything behind the curtain, because he was a very genuine man. He was kind to everyone, but he had a switch like we all do. And he wasn't scared to curse in the right situation with the right people around. And that's not what he presented on YouTube. You know, he presented on Mr. YouTube as calm and respected and nice and no cursing and just speaking to the camera. You guys that say that trash weren't at Elite FTS S4 training legs where we are going to the end. And if you saw that and you saw that monster of him, you'd understand. And there's a reason him and I got along like that. Like, the person at the end when his YouTube was popular and after he was retired in the gym was very different than the person he was when I met him, who was chasing. And as you and I will say, he trained like us when he was younger. When he was chasing that pro card, he trained like us. It was vicious. It was angry. It was violent. And there was nothing left on the table. And I think a lot of times people get that confused because they see him training in some of those videos. Noah didn't always have the camera on at certain times. It wasn't always on. And that was for a reason. So again, I'm not trying to say there was some weird dark side that no one knew, but just know that there's a reason he had as much muscle as he did. And it wasn't from being cute and fancy. I can promise you. It wasn't a scientific study, even though he was all about science and liked it. He also had enough dumb meathead in him to say, this feels good. Let's do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, that's legit, like length and partials. He was doing that shit, you know, the cable machine flies.
Yes.
And range partials after your set. Hamstring curls after your set. That was fucking 15 years ago.
Right.
And that study came out yesterday, like, 2 weeks ago or whatever.
Right.
It was like he was trying things. He wasn't just studying them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a perfect example of that is he always got talked shit about his back. And he said, you know what? I'm going to try one arm barbell rows. I'm going to try Meadows rows. I'm going to do all of that, like stretch partial for the pull downs. I'm going to do dumbbell pullovers with the grain of the bench. Like, all stuff that everyone wasn't doing. And the next thing you know, he had a back. Weird, right? Because he
Mhm.
found things that worked for him that went against common knowledge. And again, there just has to be enough like stupid meathead shit in there to find new things. You can't be scared of innovating because when he started having me using bands and stuff, no one in my gym was using them. Bands and chains, that was weird. Why would you do that? Like there was a really successful trainer that used to come in our gym and he would say all the time, Chris is stupid as shit for using chains. Like, why don't you just put another plate on there, bro? Not the same. Weird. When I competed against him, my legs blew him out of the fucking water. Weird, right?
Yeah.
Weird. But oh no, that's just Chris being a stupid idiot person. Put another plate on there. Okay. Yeah. I'll do explosive chain squats so I'm blue in the face. That put a majority of the meat on my quads, and I know that. Why? Because I could feel it.
Mhm.
You have to tell me, you have to show me a study. I can tell you right now, anyone that I've worked with who did those hard, miserable John days where it was lying leg curls to the death right into chain squats, their legs got better. Did that also contribute to the state of my back? Maybe. But it was worth it. I wouldn't take that back for one
No.
second. I had too much fun doing it.
Yeah.
I just had way too much fun doing it. So yeah, if those things get under my skin, and a lot of times when I see those comments, and again, it hasn't been a lot. That's only been a handful of times that someone has said that, where I literally will step away and like take a deep breath before I respond to it, because it does strike a nerve. And if people truly knew how much that man meant to me as well as his family, like they would never say that. And it's really interesting. I can't remember. I think maybe I was talking with Fuad or Andrew Barry. I can't remember. But for John's funeral, the church service was pretty packed. Like, but the grand scheme of life, like if you think about how many people he touched, that's a small fraction of people that were at the church. We had to drive roughly an hour to the gravesite in the middle of nowhere. There was probably a fourth of those people there. And like still to this day, that gets under my skin because it's like, if this man meant so much to you, like you claimed, you can't go ride an hour in the car and watch him get lowered into the ground to support him and his family. Like, really? Like, I guess I just expect people to be a little bit better. And I wish I would have taken a head count at the grave site. And then all those people that talk shit about any of his work or say how much he meant to him or whatever with impact, I'm like, you weren't one of those 60 people. And I'm being generous with 60. It was probably more like 30. It's kind of a somber note to end on. I don't even want to end on that.
Yeah.
But I think that's why it gets under my skin so much, is because I was there. Oh, and fun fact, I was 2 weeks out from a bodybuilding show, motherfucker. It'd have been much easier for me to stay the fuck at home and not be sad and miserable watching my friend and mentor get lowered into the ground. Like, but to finish this off, I think in the grand scheme of life, if you really take a step back and look at negative comments as a whole, because I think, everyone gets them who's chasing something great or to be better or different. You just have to remember your purpose. And that's what I always try to do. Like, I love training hard in the way I train. I love eating my meals and I love being with my family. And if I'm doing those three things, I'm happy. And I don't give a fuck, as you said, what anyone else says about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and even though those people may not understand it, it's not for them to understand. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Exactly.
it's just not like,
if it makes you happy, like just fucking roll with it.
Correct. Yeah.
And it's not, that is not something that's gonna hurt someone else.
No.
You're not stealing, you're not doing, you're not hurting people. You're eating fucking Tupperware of chicken, and training your face off 5-6 times a week.
Yep. And that's what I always have to remember. When my headphone goes on, I don't care how many people are staring at us or whatever, because a lot of times I used to view that as negative.
Mm-hmm.
And then Angela has to always remind me, she's like, Chris, like, you don't understand. Like, maybe they're watching because they're learning, or maybe they saw you on YouTube and they're like, oh man, like, that's the guy in the YouTube videos I've been watching. Like he's at the gym. And I'm like, so it made me get like a new outlook on life where I'm always like, oh, they probably think I'm a fucking idiot. And she's like, no, maybe they're learning. And I'm like,
Well, I
oh,
mean, yesterday actually, me and Zach were training back, and
okay.
we're doing back and shoulders. And this kid was like kind of like eyeballing us all the time. I didn't really pay too much attention to it, but he walked over to us at one point. He's like, "Man, I appreciate you guys for just like setting the standard of what like intensity really means. Never met this guy before in my life." And I was like, "Wow, dude, that's a big compliment. Thank you." And he's like, "Yeah, dude, I'm just traveling today. Stopped by this gym because it's 24 hours. Heard about it, and you know, on his way, but like." Coming into contact, just me and Zach doing our thing made his day better.
Right.
You
Yep.
know,
Yep. And so again, that's another lesson for this podcast is sometimes get out of your own damn head. Like, you keep doing what makes you happy, and the people who congregate to that, you'll get along with. Like I think about all the people I've trained over the course of my life, and I've always found that I can have some weird commonality amongst the entire group, no matter age or, socioeconomic status, where they came from, their background, how they were raised. Like we can always find some sort of common ground in this crazy world that we all live in, right? Like there's something, and it may not be enough to have like a friendship out of, but it's something that we can have common ground on. And what I would really encourage everyone out there that's listening to this is, maybe be more open-minded with life and understand that everyone that you come in contact with is in a different spot of their life, and they're trying to find ways to hopefully be better and better themselves or their situation. And a lot of times, like as opposed to being vile and hatred, maybe a word of encouragement or a head nod or a smile, something as simple as that. One of the trainers that worked for me years ago, his name's Steve, I'll give him a shout out. Great guy. He if you looked at him from the outside in, you may not even know he's a trainer. He's a tennis player. And but he worked so well with elderly people. I mean, he was exceptional. And one of the things I always picked up from him is no matter who he walked by in the gym, he would always say hello. He would make a job to, if he didn't know their name, he would ask them and he would remember it. And he would say, "Hey, Dave, welcome back. Good to see you." Just go about his day. And the amount of people who that would put a smile on their face was countless. And I asked him one day, I was like, "Steve, man, tell me about that." He's like, you never know what situation people are in. And sometimes everyone just needs to be recognized and said hello to, or good morning, or good afternoon, and welcomed back, or welcome for the first time. And he said, I've gotten more clients from those small interactions. He's like, no, it may have taken 3 months, but next thing you know, he's like, someone would say, "Hey, my lower back's really been hurting me. Do you have anything to help?" And he's like, "Yeah, let's book a session. Let's do something together." Next thing you know, he has a 3-4 year client that he's building their hamstrings, working on ab control, doing regular cardio, eating a meal plan. And that's a powerful lesson, right? And one that's not always easy to do in the world we live in where everything's judged, right? So yeah, that's a much more positive note to end on than John's
super true. Super true.
in a fucking negative headspace to go train back today. I'm about to go break someone's face. It might be my own. But yeah, I think inevitably we'll always face hate on the internet because it's really easy to do so, because it can be faceless or nameless. The last guy who really talked heavy shit to me on the internet had a private profile.
Yeah, same.
And what's funny is he threatened to go talk to Mary about my behavior and actions. And you know what I'm going to do? I called her on the phone and we talked about it. And she's like, "Chris, that's ridiculous." So I responded back. I said, "I just talked to Mary about this whole situation. I even sent her your profile. Good luck, man."
Yeah.
Like, fuck off, bro.
Yeah.
I don't play those games. I just don't. And to anyone out there who, if you let someone else's simple comment on the internet distract you from achieving what you want, my best advice here is delete Instagram.
Yeah. Agreed.
Or just go into hiding for a bit. Like, I mean, I think that's where you and I got really probably fortunate, is the beginning of our bodybuilding. It isn't on the internet. Like it's just not, or mine's definitely not. I wish it was, to be honest. But where you and I feel like it forced you to be in a situation where you just shut the fuck up and got better and you listened. And at the time, you and I listened to people who were bigger than better than us because the world that were in wasn't flooded with information yet. Like,
No.
so it isn't like I could go pull up a YouTube video on how to grow a chest. It's like I could get Flex magazine, I get MD magazine, or I could listen to the big guys in my gym. Those are the only 3 ways or 2 ways. And then eventually, like Muscular Development started publishing like training videos, or if we had to buy, that's the other way, a training DVD. So I bought Ronnie's and Jay's and Phil Heath, everyone's DVD, and watched it, studied it. So I think that's where you and I benefited, is like we just had to consume everything and go out and try it. And then we kept what we loved and threw away what didn't work. And it was definitely more time consuming.
Yeah.
But it forced me to learn and be the coach that I am today, as I'm sure that played in your role as well. So yeah, I think we ended there. Any final thoughts from you?
I think that's perfect.
Cool. So fuck negativity. And
yeah, positivity always wins.
Yes. And that's something that Angel always talks to me about. She's like, Chris, energy is transferable. It's very powerful. So put out good shit, put out good energy, and it'll typically come back to you. And the ones that don't, just discard that shit, man. As you mature as a human, you'll find that people's opinions mean less and less. And that may just be with age.
That's super true.
When I was in my early 20s, man, I cared what other people thought.
Yeah.
And, it was the wrong people,
Yeah.
Now it's like, I care about what my dad says. I care what my family says to a certain extent. And then I know that also, like, I don't know how you are, but I hate being told what to do. So
yeah,
if someone tells me what to do, I almost want to do the opposite just to prove them wrong.
Yeah. It's very true.
Until next time, Chris, Dave, we are done for another episode.